By now, most of you have seen the footage and all the stories going around about the scientists that have disappeared.
America's secret science network is under scrutiny tonight. 10 scientists linked to sensitive and classified research are now dead or missing. Questions are mounting, pressure is rising, and the White House says that it will look into the matter.
Well, tomorrow will mark 1 year since a tragedy that's left indelible scars, both mental and physical, in a neighborhood in Philadelphia. It was January 31st, 2025, when a medical jet exploded in the sky over northeast Philadelphia, killing 6 people on board that plane, 2 more on the ground. In the immediate aftermath of that disaster, countless good Samaritans put themselves at great risk to try to help in whatever ways they could.
Horror and chaos in a neighborhood near Sao Paulo as Vopaz Flight 2283 came crashing to the ground. On board, 57 passengers and 4 crew members. Video seems to have captured the terrifying moments. The plane fell from the sky in a free fall, dropping fast. Eyewitnesses said they jumped over a wall to escape the falling wreckage. While no one on the ground was killed, Brazil's president appeared on TV with grim news, saying none of the 61 on board had survived.
You ever wonder why we stopped hearing about that? Or maybe you're not wondering. Maybe you already know. You get it. We all get it. It's pretty obvious at this point, but at the same time, we don't want to be too cocky. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We will be scientific, and we will continue to be so until we learn something or see something that tells us otherwise. But here's what it boils down to. Everything that's happening right now, it's all tied to UFO disclosure, archaeological discoveries, true human origins, science and tech that we thought was impossible now being released or acknowledged in some way. Basically, all sci-fi movies you've ever seen, probably real in some way, small sense, in a very small sense. UFO disclosure is not only real and happening, it's currently unfolding as we speak right now, but it's also yesterday's news. Right now, although it's probably the biggest story in the world, followed by what's coming out of Egypt, but it's going to become evidently clear that the real story here is about our secret human origins. You've all heard terms like the Anunnaki, Nibiru, cataclysm, cyclical natures. This is all true, and it's all tied to this one story. These aren't separate stories. All these conspiracies we've heard over the last 25, 30 years, they're not separate conspiracies. They're all breadcrumbs of truth tied to the one story that's unfolding right now. All the truth and disclosures that are happening right now, they're happening for a reason, but they're also happening because of the fact that this is all tied together. I talk about this a lot on my series, my live rants, and my upcoming series, Real to Real Truth in Film, because there's a whole lot of breadcrumbs of truth that have been hidden in film for a very long time, and most of us have just looked at it like it was just part of the story. We ignore it. Don't really think too much about it, right? And for the most part, that's accurate. But there's also a whole flip side of this coin where there's a lot of breadcrumbs hidden in a lot of movies that are 100% true, and they were put there on purpose. The public acclamation program was put in place by who we would consider Majestic 12. Shortly after the Roswell crash or recovery. This was put in place simply because their powers that be learned something new and couldn't figure out whether or not the population could handle learning about it. So what they did, in my opinion, was potentially test out this theory first by using the World of Worlds radio show that made an entire town panic. A lot of lives were lost, and that was a a nightmare. But think about it this way. What if that was a test of disclosure? We don't know whether to tell the people. So let's tell them without telling them and see what they do. Their reaction will tell us all we need to know. Clearly, that reaction was not a good one because they decided not to tell us, decided to keep it secret. And obviously, profit and control, there's an element of that that's part of this. But right now, I'm specifically talking about, let's call it the honest portion of these evil people's minds at the time. Most likely, there was a whole lot of conversations and back and forth about whether to tell the people. And I'm willing to admit that there was probably a real, heartfelt attempt into trying to approach this the right way, but probably something got in the way and made that impossible. But here's what it all boils down to. They realized that they couldn't just come out and tell the people. So what did they do? What would you do? You've got to tell millions of people something that's going to make them all panic. How would you do it? Slowly. Very, very slowly. And in a way that they might not realize. You'd want to do it in a way where this doesn't just come across all at once. It would just kind of soak in. Right? So what do? You put this idea in the fronts of these eyes of the nation, in the minds of the hearts and the people, by media, news, TV, film, advertisements, radio. Put it into films. Jetsons, Marvin the Martian, War of the Worlds. Yeah, that's when all these movies came out. Twilight Zone. Put the general idea into the minds of the people. Get them used to the idea. Then show them all the fun technology that comes along with it. At some point, they're going to be begging for disclosure. You certainly won't have to worry about making them panic anymore. The public acclamation program, again, put in place by who we would know as Majestic 12, was a program put in place to get the people used to hearing about these things so that when the disclosure was made, no one would panic, or at least most wouldn't panic. They would already know about it. They would already be used to it. They'd be familiar with it. It wouldn't be anything new. See what I'm seeing? See what I'm getting at? Because here in 2026, and for the last, 20 years, every single one of us has basically been begging for disclosure. Oh, they're lying. We know it's true. We want our anti-gravity craft. I want to go out in the flying saucer in space. I want to go see Jupiter. Come on, give me my flying saucer. I want a red one with AC and a CD player. Yeah, I want a CD player. I grew up in the 90s. Sue me. I got CDs. I don't have any VHS, so at least I'm somewhat cool still, somewhat. But hey, whatever. I don't have any cassette tapes. I got some records in the back. Lost my train of thought. ADHD is a mother. No clue where I was going. But it's all true. This is how our history unfolded. We've all gotten used to these ideas slowly over time. We are now getting disclosure. But all the time that has passed since we should have learned about this, there's a whole gap in our history or time frame that we should have been focused on learning other things, then we would be more prepared right now for what's coming. Possibly in all sorts of fun ways, too. There's all sorts of sci-fi level type possibilities that come along with this. There's no telling the possibilities for what could be possible right now if we had been told the truth when it happened. But back on point. So, as time goes on, people start to notice that, hey, wait a second, these little breadcrumbs of evidence start to seep out into the public awareness in all sorts of ways, right? Then you start hearing whistleblowers coming forward. Then you start hearing abduction stories. Who's crazy enough to come up with a story to get taken by aliens? Yeah, he got taken up in space by aliens. Yeah, okay. Wow, right? We're all feeling pretty guilty about that here in 2026, I'll admit. I mean, I'm not one of the people who was really like that, but I guarantee at some point when I was a kid or early teenager, I probably did make that comment at least once or twice about, yeah, I'm sure he's crazy because he believes in aliens or tinfoil hat, you know. We've all done it. Out of all of the conspiracy theories to have come true, well, all of them came true, but that one is the one we least expected to be the truth, which is mind-blowing because it seems so obvious that there would be life out there if our universe is truly infinite, right? It's funny how these catch-22 thought processes that all of us do on a daily basis can cause us to miss something that's so obvious. Consciousness, life, awareness is the foundation of everything. Everything supposedly is conscious. Some thread of consciousness flows through everything. In quantum mechanics, there's something called the mycelial network. Star Trek talks about this, and it's depicted amazing in the Star Trek Discovery series. But it also helps you to see it. You can kind of look at it and understand it because it's a thing you can actually look at on the show, that is. But this is how things like telepathy, astral projection, remote viewing, and all sorts of other fun things are possible. This is how you can think about someone and then they show up or call, right? Or you can feel someone staring at you and then look behind you and they're staring at you. All these mysterious things are elements tied to these superhuman abilities. It's all possible through the mycelial network. Potentially even how portals or stargates are possible. And that's what you travel through. Right? That's an interesting thought, but at the same time, I want to admit I am not certain. So, speculation. But at the same time, I could be saying speculation and also be 100% right at the same time. Not sure. Just letting you know, that's my theory. That's what makes sense to me based on the evidence I have. But let's keep going forward. The next big event, in my opinion, I mean, there's a lot of big events that happened after Roswell, but the major event, the next one, aside from like World War I or World War II, which are absolutely part of the story, but I'm skipping forward to 9/11. I know it's a large skip, but it's a big deal. We all heard the conspiracy theories regarding that story. Most of us were probably obsessed with that conspiracy at one point in time, if we're being honest. I know I was. I went really deep down that road, especially after Loose Change came out. One of the first big ones. Then In Plain Sight. Most of you are probably familiar with that one as well. But all these documentaries came out and all these claims and theories about 9/11. And although I was really into them, there was still this part of me that kept saying to myself, you're probably just seeing this wrong, or you're probably, I don't know, seeing it from a skewed perspective, or you're probably not right, is basically what I'm saying. Most of us had that thought. Whether we saw something that convinced us or not, we still had that little piece of us. We're thinking, that's probably not a conspiracy. Boy, were we wrong and right at the same time. 9/11 made no sense. No sense at all. And many aspects of it, and because of it, also made no sense. You go to war with a country to get one guy, and you got a whole country behind you wanting you to get this guy, and then you just get him and dump him in the ocean? No pictures, no evidence, no nothing? Come on. Come on. Come on. Let's paint a different picture, shall we? The government learned of something very mystical, metaphysical even. Potentially even the Ark of the Covenant, Spear of Destiny, Aladdin's lamp for all I know. Don't know. But I do know that the government, and you know what? Let's just leave it at the government. I'm not going to name names. There's quite a few very well-known people who are really into Gilgamesh all of a sudden. So what does that mean? Well, if Gilgamesh is real, that means the giants of the Bible are real. That means the stories and claims we've heard from soldiers who were in the Afghanistan war and claim to have seen a giant are real. David and Goliath is real. Giants are real. Statues in Egypt where there's a big guy right next to a little guy. Oh, it's just because he was important and he wasn't. Okay. Seems like a whole lot more is very real than most of us realized. Back to the point. Say it was the Ark of the Covenant. You're the US government, early 2000s. Oh my gosh, magic is real. Holy cow. Holy cow. Somebody get me a lightning bolt. Now. They learned that the Ark of the Covenant was real, and they found where it was. But they had no reason to enter that country. They had no business being there. They had no claim to it. So they gave themselves one. Blamed it on them. Went to war with them. First thing they did when boots hit the ground after 9/11 was raid all the museums, destroyed them, destroyed a whole lot of priceless cultural artifacts of historical value that can tell us the answers that we are seeking right now. From that day forward, after the museums were raided and potentially after they got what they came for, what do you remember hearing after that? Every single soldier who came home from that war had the same story. We had no idea why we were there. We had no idea why we were fighting, who we were fighting. They were confused, left with PTSD, a lot of trauma, a lot of unanswered questions, and a whole lot of, let's see, how do I put this? They lost faith in their government. Now I can't go on without saying this. To the people in control, I hope you do some serious praying tonight, and I hope you do some serious rethinking. Because the people who are good enough and decent enough and have that spirit in them to where they will be the first to stand up when their country needs them, to go fight somebody who they believe is an enemy for a country that they believe in, and to send those people over there, the best of us, for no reason, and not only that, under a complete lie, false pretenses, and to use them and their patriotism and their kind-hearted soul to achieve an objective that is so selfish and unbelievable, I can't even say it out loud. Somebody lost their way. We have lost our way. It's so much easier to show up and take something than to work together to find a solution so that everyone benefits. Instant gratification, right? It's easier, right? It's easier. It's easier for me, so I don't care about you. That's basically the mindset. Yeah, now I'm really digressing. Sorry, I get passionate about some aspects of this, and I get fascinated by some aspects of this, but then I get really bummed about some aspects as well. And it's not for the reason you'd think. It's because I see that capability in everyone. Everyone has the capability to be extreme good or extreme evil. You know what I mean? We all have it. We're all guilty of it. But we're also the same we're also the first to stand up and say, hey, and point the finger too, right? Not to condone anything the government or government officials have done, but we also need to be willing to turn the mirror on ourselves and understand that we could be just as guilty or just as susceptible as anyone else in that same matter. We're all human. We all stem from the same source. We all have the same possibilities and capabilities. We're all living the same life. We're all headed in the same direction. So why are we all fighting each other and heading out sideways in opposite directions when we should be headed forward together? No one can do this alone. No one can find answers alone. No one can progress alone. So why are we fighting each other? Why are we killing each other? Why are we so focused on money and these ideas that don't exist and social media status? If we continue down this road, not only will this entire civilization not exist, but the memory of it won't even be worth remembering. Simple as that. Live a life worth remembering. That's how you know you're doing something right. That's how you know progress is being made. If you can live one day without worry, concern, or fear, you're headed in the right direction. But it's not going to be all cake and cookies. We also need to be willing to admit that every single time an obstacle comes in our path, we try to avoid it instead of working to get over it or past it or figure out why it's so hard to get past it. Or we put our focus where it doesn't need to be. Band-aid everything. I'm just as guilty of this as everyone else. I'm a previous addict, going on 9 years clean, so I get it, trust me. I'm just as guilty as this as everyone else, so I am not pointing the finger. What I'm doing is, more or less, I'm just making partial admission and a partial observation based off of what I've now learned about all these different things that are happening. Studying the Egypt topic and getting into archaeology a few years ago was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, but at the same time, I never would have known about any of this, so I could have just gone living obliviously. But then we can't share what we have learned. Then we can't figure out a solution and then make progress. So I get some obstacles and why they're there, why they're needed, why they're important. I get it. It's not going to be all cake and cookies. But here's my point. When that time comes, when it gets hard, we need to have healthy vices. We need to have a healthy way of stepping back and taking a break that doesn't include drugs, violence, hate, any of these negative things. Channel that into something, anything positive. And if you can't do that, then just take a step back. Because if we don't, it is so easy for all of this to just blow up in our face. It's like a hair trigger or a short fuse. I mean, this is so delicate and fragile, and so many different aspects and topics are tied to it, that I do now understand why the government, to an extent, not condoning what they've done, but I do understand why it's taken so long. And I hope that that means that they've been trying to do this responsibly. But there's also the possibility that this has taken so long because people are corrupt and they wanted to keep a secret and wanted to keep their profits in control. Yeah, there's absolutely probably an aspect of that that's true. But all of us are conspiracy theorists now. And every single one of us automatically assume that the government's evil every time. But here's the thing. We do have a lot of good people in positions of power now. Yeah, we did have a crappy government for a long time. We've had corruption. We've had conspiracies. It's all real. It's all true. I'm not saying it's not. But at the same time, that mindset, it can be destructive. It can lead to something not so great. Because now that we do have good people, some good people getting in positions of power and making good, decent changes for all of us, those people cannot be making changes for the better while all of us are just kind of looking at them like the enemy, right? These good people who are now in positions of power making great changes, they need our support now more than ever. And I know it's hard to support a government that has been evil and corrupt, but it's not a government that's been evil and corrupt. It's been one cog in that machine that's ruined it for the rest of us. And then a whole bunch of other cogs in that machine seeing that, oh, he got away with it, so maybe I can do it too. That's what it was. One person and their decisions are the cause for this. Now, let me clarify. I don't mean that one person did all this. What I mean is blame the person who's guilty, not the entire government, right? We need to be willing to admit this. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm willing to admit it. Always have been. And this is one thing that I had to learn the hard way. Well, that's a little dramatic. I had to learn that lesson in some way. But looking back now, I can kind of see how my anger and my want for revenge because of awful things that have happened to me fueled my want and need and anger into all the conspiracies of our world. So, if you're going to hunt for truth and knowledge and share it with people, then that's one thing you need to admit right off the bat. That's how you start with truth. So I admit that 100%, but we need to know and we need to accept and understand that it's not the same government or world. Even though some of that government or world does still exist. I'm not saying it's gone or better or it's all fixed and it's all hunky-dory, right? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we can't look at our government like it's some evil, horrible thing that we just need to get rid of. Because there are decent aspects, there are good aspects, and it's the only way that we can prosper and move forward as a collective. Otherwise, we're going to end up back in the Wild West, you know? So we don't want that, but at the same time, we don't want the way things are now either. How do we move forward? I'm not going to claim to have a full answer. One thing I do know, though, is it's not going to be done individually. There's not going to be one person that shows up and takes care of all this, aside from Jesus himself, respectfully. Don't bite my head off. What I mean is, it's just not like I can just show up and be president and everything's going to be fine, right? It doesn't matter who gets in office. There's always going to be someone who likes him or doesn't, you know? It's not going to be one person that everybody loves. Again, aside from voting Jesus into office. My point is, collectively, we need to start understanding where our setbacks and faults are with not only our mindsets and the way we think about this, but how we look at it, how we approach it, how we deal with it, how we act. All these things need to be kind of revamped, but we can't just throw it all into the trash. There has to be some process throughout that change. There needs to be something in place while the transition is occurring. And here's the point. That is what's happening right now. These good, decent people who are in positions of power, whether it be Congress or elected officials in various positions in the White House or just a regular government or like your tax office, the BMV, doesn't matter. All of these people that have been part of this conspiracy, we'll call it, or who made decisions that were not in the best interest of the general population, or was just selfish. These people are on the way out. Yeah, there's legacy programs and there's all sorts of other family ties to all these secret programs and things. Yeah, that's probably never going to go away. But the secrecy when it comes to the knowledge and the truth is what matters here. This is now coming out. The truth about what's happened. Well, most of it, I should say. And the people responsible. Now, I don't know if all the people responsible will be put to justice, but how do I say this? Sorry, it's a complicated idea to try to convey without getting my head bit off. Okay, let's put it this way. And you're going to have to really be honest with yourself and really think about this to understand what I mean. But at what point do we realize, no matter how much violence is in the world, and there's a lot, at what point do we realize, hey, it might be worth it, rather than continuing this violence and war and revenge? This is going to be controversial. I warn you. At what point do we consider forgiveness? Seriously. At what point do we say, man, these people are evil. They did some awful things and I want justice. But in order to prosper, in order to progress, we basically need a clean slate. I'm willing to forgive you if you're willing to forgive me, kind of thing. Yeah, it's going to be hard to do, but anything worth doing, it's going to be hard to do. Anything easy isn't worthwhile. Right? We all know this. But think about that for the rest of today. Let me know your thoughts. I'm not saying that's what we do. I'm certainly not saying that's a good option by any means, but I'm simply asking, at what point do we ask ourselves that? And if it gets to that point, could you do that? Could you be willing to let go of all of the awful, horrible things that have happened in order for the rest of us to have a better future? It's very possible that that option, or that eventual possibility, could happen. The changes are being made. This is happening. None of us really know whether it's going to happen smoothly or whether it's going to be a good or bad outcome, but it's happening regardless. So let's end with this. You are in charge of your choices and the way you approach this. You aren't in control of anyone else's opinions, thoughts, choices, decisions. The only thing that you can control that's part of this is you. You can decide if you want to be angry, mad, sad, if you want to fight back, make progress, collaborate, find solutions, find problems. That is your decision. No one will ever be able to take that away from you. And no one will ever be able to make your decision for you, ever. So stop trying to make others for them. And certainly don't try to mislead, psyop, misinformation, mislead people. Yeah, I know everyone wants to get to the next big story and be the next big thing and be the guy who discovered it, kind of thing, or gal, sorry. None of that matters. Think about it this way. Say you were Einstein. You were the one that discovered the next amazing thing, or you were the person that discovered something a long time ago. What good does that do Einstein now? None. But it does all of us a whole lot of good. See what I'm getting at? So start doing things for yourself instead of for the collective or for other people. Stop trying to do things for them. They can do it themselves. You need to worry about you. Start turning that light back inside, as within, so without, kind of thing. That's what that means. And start working on you, the inside. And once you get that situated, the outside will follow, and everyone in it. So the solution isn't out there, it's in here.